if you are new here, we are building out how to build the same lead gen report in 5 different methods. The first method is going to be how to use the GA4 native connector. So go watch that video first. We'll link it wherever you're supposed to link things in YouTube. And now we're going to use the actual Google Sheets and API. So if you're new here, check this out. This is where we're headed, and hopefully it makes sense. So basically we've already done the GA4 connector. We are now doing the GA4 API to Sheets. We skipped the paid connector because of a few admin reasons. Hopping back into that in a sec. And so now we're going to do the GA4 to Google Sheets to Looker Studio. So we're all these end in Looker Studio, but this is what we're working on. Okay, so let's talk about how on earth we are going to do this. Let's hop into our little free web whiteboarder here. And what I'm going to do is, this is the problem that we're trying to get around, right? So here is GA4. This is good old GA4. All right. What happens is that whenever you load a report, right? So here is your Looker Studio report, right? Whenever it loads, by default, it just hits that API. Boom. Session or 54 tokens used, or however many tokens is used whenever you do this. So then every time you load it, bam, another person loads it, another 54, your coworker loads it, boom, another person, client loads it. Oh my goodness. After pretty much 10 minutes, you are toasted. You get to about 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how you're building it, and you run out of tokens. So the paid connectors, what they do is they cache things. So here, there's a little caching, big C, and then that is what hits the GA4 connector. That's why they work. Also why the connectors are slow. So like Supermetrics, Power Analytics, 2-minute reports, Porter metrics, etc. They're all really slow because of this caching situation where they want to store that information and then serve it to you, as opposed to hitting the API. What we are going to do is we're going to build a Google Sheet right here. So this is our Google Sheet, GS, which is going to hit the API one time per day. Once. Okay, maybe twice. Most likely once. Then what we're going to do is have our Looker Studio report connect to the Google Sheet. Bam! And now we have defeated the infamous API quota because we can hit this Google Sheet 10 times from Sunday. The only problem we have to manage here is the actual problem of the number of rows and columns that you're going to do. So this is only going to work for either smaller sites or very specific reports, but we're going to use a free tool that's going to actually expose us to the API as opposed to the drag and drop Google Sheet builders, which they do have, right? There are connectors that do this, but we're going to do it ourselves because, hey, that's fun. So without further ado, let's hop into it and review. So just so we're all on the same page, we're going to build this good old report. We need the source, medium, campaign, the lead type, the steps, and the date. Pretty much those fields. So how I usually start things, just so you have an idea behind what we do, is I open myself up a Google Sheet, and we're going to name this Looker Studio VIP lead gen, and I'm going to call this live for why it's YouTube. Okay. So what do we need? We need, these are the fields that we're going to be using, the dimensions, right? We have the date, we have the sessions, not date, the session. We need date, we then need the event name, right? Because that's the event name that we're using. We then need the custom dimension of the foresight name, right? We then need the source session medium, session campaign. We all need all of those. And then lastly, we need sessions, right? That's important. And I'm going to add an event count just for sake of keeping things more robust when we're doing these API calls. So here, let's just put the little double click there. Bam. These are all the fields that we need. I'm going to add a couple more because I want to show you how the APIs can even be better. I'm going to add in host name and landing page. Technically, the launching path, we'll hop into that in a second. So here we have date, event name, host name, path, foresight name, session source, medium, campaign, sessions, event count. Okay, let's do it. We're going to use a tool called Mixed Analytics. This is by far the most bang for your buck, and any technical marketer should have a subscription. And I'm not even saying that. I do have an affiliate link. It is the most affordable thing out there. For 12 bucks a month, you can have all those things. Like, it's amazing. The tools that we are going to use will be using the OAuth connection, so you will have to be on the business plan if you want to do this. But I think it's totally worth it. You can use this for multiple clients, multiple endeavors, and also it exposes you to how the underlying belly of the internet works with APIs. Would highly recommend. Link in the description down below. So how does this work? I will show you right now. We open up this sucker. We're going to make a new sheet that's going to be called our Looker Studio VIP lead gen table. As you can tell, we're going to come up here to extensions. There's an API connector extension. That's what they have. You can hit open on that bad boy. Okay. While that's opening up, this is what it looks like. Super simple. I'm in here at like really zoomed in because I want to show you this. We're going to come over to their actual documentation, go to integrations. We're going to then type in GA4. All right, bam. Here we go. So this is accessing the API, and this gives you a whole bunch of steps to set up. So here, connect your Google Analytics account. Basically, there's OAuth for analytics. You have to give it granted access. Basically, part one, I've already done. You can follow it if you're going to follow the tutorial. It's not that crazy. You can do it. Okay, sample Google Analytics API request. This is where things start to get a little bit spicy. So here we need to say what the application is, the method, the URL, the OAuth, the headers, and then the body is where you define kind of your things. And then the James path is where you can format your outputs. What we're going to do is we're just going to copy this because I am not a fan of reinventing the wheel. So custom post, I'm going to grab this sucker. Bam. Let's hop back into our tab, create a new request. It is really fun. This is like, okay, get custom, post, URL, paste that sucker in. We have to come back here and adjust it with our property ID. We'll do that in a second. We then have the Google Analytics OAuth, which you did in part one. Bam. It takes a second. Auth connected. Ta-da. We're then going to hop back into our situation. We're going to grab the content type, and then it's application JSON, content type, and let's grab the application JSON file. All right. So then here's the request body. I'm just going to copy this, straight up copy. I'm not even, no shame in the game, folks. Starting where you know works. Okay. And I'm going to do is I'm just going to hop into our Google Analytics account. So here, if you go to analytics, you then go into admin here, and then you can go to property settings and then copy your property ID. And then the OAuth is what makes sure that you have access. If you use my property ID, it's going to be like incorrect error. The same way if I like use the test one, that won't work either. Paste that sucker in, Command V, ta-da. So now theoretically, if I hit run, oh, first you need to set the destination sheet. I'm going to use 1A, set current, pulls it in, lead gen table, cell A1. We are going to hit run and cross our fingers to the API gods that it works and take a sip of your iced coffee. Oh, there we go. Boom, it worked. Okay, so this is what it returns, and you might be like, what on earth is this chaos? If you go all the way over here, there's like literally thousands of columns, and that's because that's how it returns the data. What we want to do is we want to hippity hop back into here, and this is where the James path shows up. All right. What this does is it formats the rows to be the values the way that you kind of expect it to work. So for the James path, go come in here to output options, more options, James path, paste it in. Again, we are just copying and pasting, folks. Hit run again. It's going to run one more time. And just keep in mind, guys, you have like on the pro plan, you have 60,000 requests. Okay. So that's what you have. What I would recommend once you get something to work is save it. Okay. So I'm going to name this as LS VIP lead gen. Okay. I'm going to hit save just so it's saved, because if you close this window out, nothing is saved. Okay. I'm going to get rid of my fat old head, and we're going to hop all the way over here. So column 1 is the date. Then we have the device category, session source, session medium, session campaign. And then we've got sessions and conversions. Bam, ta-da, it returned those things. But now what we want to do is we want to make it a little bit better, okay? We want to find the values that we want to create. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to zoom in a little bit. Let me try to see if I can zoom in because this frankly is too tiny. All right, zooming. Okay, cool, we're zoomed. What we're going to do now is we are going to modify this, and I'm going to format this in the way that I like to format things. I hit enter because I am not a developer. I don't care about device category. I want landing page. Landing. I know that it's landing page, and all we are looking for is the actual dimension name. So I want landing page. I want session source, medium, campaign, and then it goes for metrics. But we also need I want the host name as well, because I know the landing page doesn't create, it's only the page path. I know it's stupid. Host name. All right, so we have date, host name, landing page, session source, medium, campaign. Boom. What do we need next is we need our custom dimension. So that is where things get spicy. So let me just come down here and I'm going to actually run this. So let me just see if I can zoom you back out. And we're going to hit run to see if it works. Okay, so I don't care about transactions. I'm going to do event count. I think that's right. Let's find out. And let's see, let's hit run. Run. All right, so now what should be happening is that it's running, getting all those fields, and ta-da, it worked. So remember, hit save when you get something to work because it won't save your work. So here is what I was talking about, is moving things all the way over to the left. Oopsies, wrong button. Is we have the date, the host name, the landing page. Remember, landing page is just the landing page path, not the host name of that. We then have the source, medium, campaign, and then we also have the sessions and then event count. So ta-da, there we go. The last thing that we're gonna need here, I forgot about, is we need two things. We're gonna need the event name because we need to actually be able to drill into event name, and we need the parameter of the custom dimension thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop into the documentation here. We are gonna scroll all the way down and there's links to the developer's documentation. So I'm gonna click on this, boop. We are now here inside of the all of the dimensions and metrics. So you're like, how did you know what landing page was? If I hit Command F for landing, there we go. Landing page plus query string is the page path plus query string associated with the first page view in the session. Ta-da! So that now you know like why I knew that. So we need host name if you have multiple domains like we do. We're gonna click this custom dimensions section. We're gonna pop down, and then here is custom event with the parameter name. How do you know what your custom dimensions are? Hop in here, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our configure, which they keep changing things, and I hate it so much, and admin. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our custom definitions, and we're gonna look for foresight name, and then here is the actual name of it, fs_name. Ta-da. I'm gonna copy that, just so we got it. Now, what we're gonna do is we need to come into our API. We're gonna copy this custom event situation. We're gonna go back into our actual pieces here. I am going to hit, where do I want this? Landing page. I want it after landing page just to keep things organized. Hit that, enter, paste, enter again, paste. Okay, so we want the event name. Again, I do this a lot, so that's how I know how to do it. We're gonna hop in here. We're gonna copy this sucker, paste it into this landing page. Bam. Instead of parameter name, we know what it is. It's fs_name. So this should give us the event name, the host name, landing page, this such, bam, from this date. What we're gonna change also is I wanna just, because I know things have changed, I'm gonna do 12:01 through 12. What's a 8:08? So that way we have like a more recent thing. So that is what should happen. 20,000. We are going to hit run, boom, and see if it works. All right, guys. So as you can tell, this is a little bit more complicated than dragging and dropping that we did with the normal thing, but hopefully it makes sense. So now we have the landing path, the landing page, the actual event name. I'm going to hit save because I've done this before and I've really regretted it. Okay. So here we have the event name. We then have all those things, and number of sessions, and the event count. Ta-da! Okay, the problem is, though, is that we don't care about all these other events. We don't want them. We don't want the other events. So we just want our events that we're going to use, so we have the smallest possible table to be referencing from Looker Studio, okay? That is the goal. Smallest possible table to get the most possible results. How do we do that? This is how. We are going to hop into this documentation. We're going to go back into the mixed analytics documentation. We are going to go into the GA4 API documentation, scroll all the way down to find where they talk about filters, which is, here we go. So this right here is dimension filters, where you can filter by multiple things. They actually give us a good example down here of all of them. Remember, guys, when in doubt, copy it out. Command C. We're just going to copy this dimensional filter, and they give us an example up here of where that goes. So we know that the dimension filter goes after the metrics. So let's go find the metrics in our request. That's not that complicated. Okay. So metrics. Bam. I'm going to hit enter. Then I'm going to just paste what we have in. Command V. Dimension filter, field name is looking at the event name, and it's a filter of a list. So if any of these values are present, so it has purchase, in-app purchase, app store subscription, etc., it will only show up. I know we have purchases to test, so I'm just going to hit run and see if it works as it is. So what we should see is only purchases, because all those other events we don't have. See, did not work. No, or we just don't have any purchases. So let's go to an event that we actually have. So impression underscore lead. I know that we have impression underscore leads. So let's go and run this one more time and see if that works. If you're confused or questioning anything, join the waitlist for Better Than Data. It's an awesome program that we put on, and it opens every once in a while. There, shameless plug. Okay, so here we go. We have the impression underscore lead. That is only should show that. There we go. And now we can see every single value that we have with that. What I'm going to do, all right, we just copy that over. We don't have any in-app purchases. Is I am going to do a filter here for all of our things. So aware underscore lead. Next one, engage underscore lead. And you have to hit a comma, enter, space a bunch of times, and then lastly is generate underscore lead. Really important to have your names right. So we're looking for all these different values and number of sessions and event counts, blah, 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 blah. And let's hit run and see if it works. No, it did not. Okay, something is invalid. Let's go do some little debugging. It's probably something impression, aware, comma. Am I supposed to have a comma here? I don't remember. I don't think so. Oh, there's no double quote. That's it. That's the problem. Okay, cool. So hit run one more time. And this is, again, copy and pasting, going back to the documentation. There we go. So now we have impression, aware, etc. All of those. We have the values. I'm going to hit save because I don't want this to go away again. What I'm going to do next is then I am going to update so like just to recap, right? We added that filter. So now it's only those events. Because we did that, if we hit command and down, there's only 217 rows. Because when we come over here, you can see that they can fit more than just one. So like 5, 3, it's not a single row per session. We're actually able to look at much more. So that's a big pro. What we want to do now is we want to do two things. We want to make sure that we have this be updated frequently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a start date. You can go backfilling whatever you'd like to. I know that we rebuilt this entire setup on the 22nd of November. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here, and we're going to put this as the 11/22, and I'm going to change this to yesterday, yesterday. So it's going to run from the 22nd through yesterday. And I'm going to hit run and see if this works. And the cool thing about the GA4 API is you can return, I believe, 100,000 records per request, which is a lot, like a lot. So we don't need to worry about it too much, because if you're running into that limit, you're going to run the Google Sheets limit really quickly. So like if you're in the Google Sheets situation, you don't have to worry too much about like the limits of the API, because the Google Sheets API the Google Sheets limits will probably kick in first. But I'm going to show you how to kind of automate this. So here we go. And we have 1,000 of these situations. Ta-da, bam. Last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to hit save again, and we're going to hit edit fields. This is by far my personal favorite feature of Mixed Analytics is you can hit this. It then brings this up and you can rename the actual field. So here I'm going to call this date. I'm going to do capitals with no spaces, just for the sake of my sanity. This is going to be host name. This is then, I'm going to call this landing underscore path, because it's not a landing page technically. We then have the event name. All right. We then have the FS Foresight name. We then have the session source. Oopsies. We then have the session medium. And we then have the session underscore campaign. And then this should be sessions. And lastly, we have event count. Okay, I'm gonna hit save on this. This will then overwrite the field names whenever it runs. So if I hit save, it should all save. There we go. We should be able to close this out. If we then hit save and then run, it's going to go get the data, rename the names, and we are off to the races. The last thing I like to do, this is like a paranoia thing, is just to make sure that it's all there. Yep, there we go. And now we're going to go into Looker Studio and build it out there. So we have all of our data. Oh, last thing here. So under our extensions file API open, what we can do is, if we want this to be updated, right, is we can then set this to run in a schedule. So because we know it's pulling all the data from yesterday, what we can do is schedule this to run daily. So I'm going to come up here, schedule, create trigger. And we're going to wait here while this loads. I hope you guys are having a great time. Okay, cool. We're going to go into this thing, and we're going to run it once a day. Let's run it at, I don't know, 9 a.m. Sure. Run as any user, and we will call this lead gen daily. And we're going to hit save. Okie doke. So now this should run every day at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if we come into our requests, you'll see that it's going to run this same request. We can come in here and hit run right now. It'll run it again, but nothing will change. And you can see our schedule, and it's going to run daily there. Bam. And we can hit log request, so we can see that our request will log into a Google Sheet. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to share this account, and we're going to open it up inside of Looker Studio, and we'll be off to the races. Okay, we have now zoomed out. We have all the data. It's running daily. We're then going to hop into our Looker Studio account. Again, if you're not familiar with creating the same report, a lot of different ways, using different methods, because, hey, no one else is, so let's do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into our last build, the GA4 native connector. We are then going to open up this tab, and we're going to make a copy of this. We're going to make a copy file, and we're going to go up here into duplicate, bam. And we're going to rename this twice because apparently Google does not want us to do this. We want to call this GA4 API Google Sheet. And rename it one more time because that's what we do. GA4 API to Google Sheet. Okay, there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select this, right click. Oh wait, no, first thing we're going to do is add data. We're going to open up our Google Sheets. There we go. We are then going to go into our Looker Studio VIP lead gen test. We're going to go into the table that's being updated, hit add. I know it seems remarkably simple now after we spent 25 minutes building it. Okay, we've now added this. It is now the Looker Studio lead gen, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. We're going to right click on this. We're going to select all charts with this data source on the page. We're then going to swap it over to this. And it's not going to work by default. So we have the date. We just selected the date for that. And so now when you just come into all of these, so we have date, the session. Oh, wait, let's go here. Date. Oh, we have to get rid of all of these filters. Okay, there we go. So now let's get rid of this data tab, make it a little bit bigger for you guys. So here we've got session source, session medium, session campaign. The same thing applies. We're going to add those filters back. But then here is where we can get real fun, is we can just swap this over into our lead gen, right? So now all we have is our foresight name. We just need to change these data pieces. So now you're like, how do we get those events into here? And this is the beauty of non-aggregated metrics, is that all we have to do this is create a metric, create a new field. And you can say, if, what did I call it? Shoot. If event name equals impression underscore lead, right? Comma, if it does, right? True, if the condition is true, we want to return sessions. If not, 0. All right, so now this is going to be impression underscore lead. I'm just going to call it impression. We're going to skip the step of renaming it. You guys are smart. Hit apply. There we go, guys. You can see this. Add in the date range. Pow. Now we've got impressions. There we go. We're going to add in another field. And then we can add aware. Add in another one. As you can see, once you get the understanding of this, you can go pretty quickly. Impression, aware, engage, and lastly is generate. All right, there you go, guys. So as you can tell, we are cooking with gas. And you can see that it matches up exactly with what the other report is. So we have just really done ourselves good. And then you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now we need to do this other ways. So what you need to do next, like the quickest way of doing this is I would suggest is that you just copy this and then create new fields. So in this actual field, what we can do is add a new field. And I'm going to call this, paste this in here. We're going to call this impression. Like if you have a big data source, you've got impression, you don't want to name it lead. I'm going to name it impression just for the sake of this. And then what we're going to do is just keep adding more of them. So here, add one, aware. And the reason why we're doing here, like that was just a test in the chart to make sure it lined on up. There, aware, hit save. Go back, another field. Engage. There we go. No editing here because we want to make sure everything is fast for you. And lastly, we're going to create one more field. that is generate. All right. So you'd want to name these a little bit different if you were working on like a production account. This is a show and tell. So here we go. I'm just going to open up a data tab again. We're going to put in all of those pieces. So here we're going to replace engage with engage. We're going to replace impression with impression. I'm going to press aware, impression, aware, engage, and A, B, C, D, E, F, generate. There we go. Should all match up. Now is when the fun begins, because we can simply take these. I'm going to ungroup them really quickly. So here, Command Shift G to ungroup these. Then all you've got to do is select this, hop it into the Google Sheet. Same with this. Hop it into that Google Sheet. Always got to make sure that the date is selected, otherwise you're going to be like really confused. All right, I'm going to use impressions here. All right, and then we're going to have this same concept, date, impression, aware, engage, generate. And now we have the same concept. Why won't this let me delete it? There we go. So here, let's just put this as the default, right, of image metric grid. Hey, it saved it for me. And then we can copy this, put it over here. Okay, sometimes Google does not like to make things consistent. Command C, Command V. We should be able to just use this. There we go. Same concept, right? We just want to change this to have a different default. So I'm going to just group these, Command G, to group those together. We're then going to change this to the cheat. Oh, there it is. Sometimes I love Google. And we're going to group these together, Command G, group those together, make sure that they're like lined up at least a little bit. All right. Last thing down here, same concept, guys. It's not rocket science. We're going to add in our date here. We're then going to add in impressions, aware, engage, generate. And then here we can just do our little situation of generate divided by impression. Hit apply. All the styling should match. There we go. As you can see, we are freaking crushing it. But there you go, guys. Now it should all work. Let's just double check one last time. Let me make sure all these are grouped together. We're going to hit refresh. All right, the cheat sheet one is not grouped. Here we go, Command G, group those together. Refresh one more time. And folks, there you have it. The last piece is the same field. We could just copy the conversion rate from down here. Add in one more field. Make sure it's a percentage. Remember that. That's very important. Hit apply. Now all we got to do, hide these tabs. We can then come down here, make it a little bit chunkier. Ta-da. Okay. So now, without further ado, actually, let me just change these to be impressions only. The last possible change. I just want to make sure that you guys aren't being fed any false lies about how long this takes. Like, you might think this is fast or slow. I'm not exactly sure. So we're going to keep impressions, and impressions. Hit reset, hit view. Guys, there it is, folks. Okay, so now here we go. If we want to drill into our organic, click on organic. Bam, here's our organic conversion rates. Here's the comparison. Here's the timelines. Bada bing, bada boom. Maybe you want to see just referral traffic from other sources. Here's all the different methods of referral traffic. There it is. And this is all pulling from Google Sheets. So there you go. Method number 2 of how on earth we are going to be able to do this. Link down below and how to do it. And I will see you guys in the next video.